There's quite a few people right at the moment who are seriously again saying we know everything about the universe. And it's quite interesting because this happened at the end of the 19th century as well. And so you had, after electromagnetism was discovered, you had a lot of people saying, well, that's it, we're not going to get any further than this. This is all there is. And a few years later, of course, Einstein brought out his papers, and that led to a huge amount, including eventually quantum theory. And from there we have all the weapons as well as fuel, as well as technology, and all of the things that we would call modern life have come from really 20th century discoveries. So again, people are kind of saying, oh, well, we know all there is to know. We know how the universe began. We know how it all, we know about evolution. We know. And really, in terms of just the scientific framework that we've got, there's so many gaps. There are so many gaps, and the more we look at the evidence, the less it fits our models of reality. And that's really what I wanted to highlight a lot in punk science, that science isn't the public image, and the public image is that everything's sorted. But on a bigger picture than that, when I received the way that this was completely unexpected, that I would end up having a scientific theory of my own. I was not, expecting something like that. But when it actually came through, part of it, I was really shown that even this theory that was going to be given in that moment was just a tiny, tiny, tiny part of really how the universe works, and that the totality of the rules, the laws of how the universe is put together. If you can imagine, what I saw, I'll tell you what I don't think I've ever told anyone this, but I mean, you're getting an exclusive here.
Awesome.
It was as if you can imagine, the theory that I'd just been shown was like a triangle. And so you have the apex at the triangle at the top, sort of not something that's equilateral, but something that's going sort of straight. And what I got shown is a sudden ratcheting up, so that although the theory occupied the top of that triangle, the bottom of the triangle was vast, and that represented the rest of the knowledge that we would get some tiny increments of that. But what I think the universe was showing me was that this is so vast. The human conceptualization will never understand this, the true vastness of the universe. And I'm not really sure why I was shown that. I think part of it was to keep me humble, maybe.
You're talking about a deeper spiritual experience? Is that what you're talking
Yes, I
about?
mean, from the age of 18, I've been a visionary. I had a Kundalini experience, and I've been clairvoyant. And so when I had this vision that gave me the black hole principle, part of that vision was that moment of seeing. It was almost like, if you were to put it into words, it was like somebody was saying, "Okay, this is the next step in science." But you know what? Don't don't think this is it, because there is so much more beyond this even. But you're being given the next stage in scientific knowledge for human beings. And I'm not being arrogant in that either, because there's a number of people who are talking similar language to the black hole principle. We've each got a piece of the puzzle, and I think it's really this is what happens when we're about to go to the next scientific level. So, will we know everything in science? Well, first of all, we've got to realize that our current models don't fit the evidence. That's very important, and the
Hmm.
public are not being shown that. And also that, on a bigger picture, on a deeper perspective, I've had an experience where I've been shown that in terms of the human mind, there are many different beings in many different levels, but in terms of the human mind and what the human being can conceptualize, we're never going to know the full picture because it is just so vast.
Mhm.
What I realized is that a lot of science that is out there is really dealing with a small part of the universe. And it's not just me that's saying that. If you ask a cosmologist, they'll tell you that 97% of the universe, greater than 97% of the universe, is basically unknown to us. The stuff that we can see and measure, like the sort of physical dust, stars, all of that, it makes up such a small percentage of the universe. And most of it is unknown sort of dark energy and dark matter. And it's called that because we can see the influences that those forces and that matter makes, but we can't directly measure it. We're aware of it indirectly. And so you've got this universe where most of it is missing. Um, and so what I realized, and I was greatly influenced by the work of a physicist called João Magairo.
Mhm.
And around the turn of the century, he started to talk about the speed of light not being the ultimate speed limit, and also what if the speed of light was different in the early universe, and that would help make sense of a theory called inflation. And but that was put out as a theory called VSL, varying speed of light. And but actually, in his work, he actually went deeper, and he said, and this is like a professor of physics. This is not a sort of woo-woo person that is,
Mhm.
is just plucking things out of the air. He's actually doing the mathematics. He's publishing in peer-reviewed journals with a team.
Mhm.
And so what they started to say, what he said actually in his book, which I highly recommend, Faster Than the Speed of Light, is he said that light is actually infinite, and it actually gets curled up in different dimensions, so we don't see its true speed. And it kind of made a lot of sense to me that depending on where you found yourself in the universe, what level, what dimension is way how you would see the speed of light. So then I realized that the speed of light, which is, it's a strange concept anyway, because we're talking about sort of a photon that. How does a photon travel at that speed anyway? It's all very
Mhm.
interesting. So I realized it isn't a speed, it's a reflection of a consciousness vibration. So what we call the limitation of our 3D world is not the limitation at all. There's actually vast amounts beyond that, the worlds that we call the dark energy and dark matter. But when it comes to our physical reality, um, everything refers back to the speed of light. It's kind of like that's the reference point to which all matter and mass, anything with mass, kind of refers back to, as it were. So it's that is definitely the limitation of the mass world that we're used to, but it's not the limitation of the universe. So once you realize that there's more to the universe than just this reality, it starts to make sense. And then absolutely consciousness is related to this. So that's why it's perception horizon, because it's a limitation of our 3D perceptions. Um, so the speed of light then becomes a perception horizon, which is the limitation of our normal perception. The mystical perception actually goes further. But what's interesting is that the theory of relativity in the first place is all about perception and your perspective, because it depends on how fast you're going and whereabouts you are in the universe as to how space and time behaves. So, really, that was written into the whole thing from the beginning. And so what I'm doing is just saying that that's not the limitation, it's just a limitation of our normal perceptions of this reality, but there are realities beyond. And when you understand from, some of the conclusions of quantum physics that, quantum physicists, that, they talk about consciousness being fundamental because of the, you use observation to collapse a wave function, therefore people have started asking, is consciousness like a more fundamental force? Then this absolutely ties in with this concept of the perception horizon. So it's basically, in a nutshell, then the speed of light is not the speed of the limit of the universe. It's simply a reflection of the vibration of consciousness that we call this reality, and there's levels of reality, levels of consciousness beyond that.